My great-great-great-grandfather, so a guy called John Cadbury, he set up Cadbury's back in 1824, so 200 years as of next year. Anyway, he set up a little grocery store. No one had ever come across cocoa before. Cadbury's were one of the first to have this hot chocolate drink, so people would come into their store and be like, wow, what's this smell? I was just super inspired by it. Always wanted to get into chocolate or have my own business, and I was really passionate about it.
Hi everybody and welcome to FEBE Founder Stories, and it is brilliant to have James Cadbury in the seat today. James, every single guest we have in the studio is a special guest, but this one naturally have got me really excited by this product, which is chocolate. Everyone loves chocolate. I mean, you're in the Growth 100, so obviously you're growing fast, but everywhere I look, being on social media, this is a brand that's really getting out. So obviously you're having a pretty exciting time at the moment with what you're doing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, chocolate is a great product. Everybody loves it. I think 9 out of 10 people eat it every week. So
9 out of 10 people.
Yeah. So we're one of the biggest consumers, I think, after Germany. So one of the second, I think, in the world, sort of thing. So chocolate's great. So many different occasions as well. People have it to snack. It's gifting. Just having that joy. It's for me, chocolate is all about those 10 seconds of joy, and if you have a rubbish day,
you're right, it's joy.
You just get that sort of I love that, and it makes everything all right for a couple of minutes, and that's what we try to do with our brands.
Okay, so we've got some of your goodies here, right? So I'm right in saying therefore that we've got the main brands are Love Cocoa.
Yep.
And Hip.
Yep.
So what's the difference?
So Love Cocoa was our first brand. So we set that up about 7 years ago. And when we set up, I had no idea what I was doing, completely and utterly clueless. And in hindsight, actually, it's probably a good thing, because if I knew how hard it was, I probably wouldn't have bothered.
Which will be surprising people with obviously the surname Cadbury.
Yeah.
And that's not just a coincidence, is it? That you're from the lineage of the Cadbury family, right? Exactly.
So the story is my great-great-great-grandfather, so a guy called John Cadbury. He set up Cadbury's back in 1824, so 200 years as of next year, which is super exciting. And when he set up, it was literally a grocery store. I think he was about 26 at the time. He was a Quaker, so being a Quaker back in those days meant that you can actually get a job in the army or any a government job or anything like that. So you had to go into the private sector and really have your own business. They were seen as a sort of outcast of society, which is crazy, because some of the stuff they were saying and doing was, it was light years ahead of, the rest of the population at the time. So anyway, he set up a little grocery store, and they eventually...
At the age of 26?
Yeah, in Birmingham. So it was on Ball Street in Birmingham. At the time, Birmingham was a very industrial city, very lots of smog, and it didn't sound great. But anyway, he had this cool little grocery shop, sold nice little products, and then eventually did teas and coffees. And then they heard about, in Madrid, people started to drink hot chocolates. Hot chocolates were very different from what we know them today. It was actually cocoa beans with spice, sort of ground up in a petal of water.
Wow, that's very different to what we have today then.
Exactly, with no milk, so it wasn't cream or anything like that. Then it was water. So
I think it's been quite more of a bittery taste, is that right?
Yeah, absolutely, I think so. And that's why they had the spice. They had chili and stuff like that, and cinnamon. And all these flavours and smells and whatever else was completely different. Like, no one had ever come across cocoa before. Cadbury's were one of the first to have this hot chocolate drink. So people would come into their store and be like, wow, what's this smell? What's cocoa, and some of the spices as well, again, because 200 years ago we didn't have this global trade where you could go to the supermarket and pick up some chili powder or whatever it might be, or a chocolate bar. So it was all brand new. And they went from having this hot chocolate, which people came into the store to. They wanted to have a wider appeal with this, so they went to try and make chocolate bars. The problem at the time was that no one really knew how to make a chocolate bar, so Cadbury's invested a lot of money and got chemists and people like that involved to try and make the process smoother and better, and the quality of the chocolate tastes different. So a lot of the other manufacturers at the time were using stuff like brick dust, which we can see behind us is a brick, and also potato starch.
Real bricks.
Yeah, exactly. I wasn't sure if I was many. And they're putting weird stuff in it to make it like texture and colour and whatever else. And the Cadbury's are like, no, we need to have something which is purer and better than anything else. And at the time, chocolate was very bitter, as you said. So they eventually worked out to put milk in it. So at the time, people didn't know how to put milk into it. So eventually, after lots and lots of iterations, and buying a new machine in Holland, and really taking a big punt on this. Really, they put all their money into making this work, and somehow developed this chocolate bar which was better than anything else in the market at the time. There was people in Switzerland like the Nestle family and the Lindt family and people like that who were, everybody knows today, but they were rivals, and they were the ones who were really, really working hard to create like a chocolate bar which really tasted good, which they could market and take it out to the rest of the world.
And Bourneville?
Yeah, then
Bourneville, right, as well?
Yeah, so the story of Bourneville, that was about 50 years after they started. So for about, for about 30 years they were trying to work out how to make this chocolate, and they had a little factory in the middle of Birmingham. The problem with that was though, there's lots of issues with society. Lots of people were drinking alcohol. I think it was the time where you can make your own gin at home and you just get absolutely smashed. And I think people were, sounded a bit like the Peaky Blinders, people would be like walking around Birmingham and just getting, wasted. And for being a Quaker family, they didn't believe in that. They were against alcohol. So that was one of the reasons they had the hot chocolate. And they just really thought about things and cared about things, and they didn't want people to have to work in a horrible, smoggy city full of pollution or whatever else. So they bought Bourneville, which is at the time about 6 miles south of Birmingham. They bought a lot of land around it, and they started to build the factory and then build houses for all their employees as well, which is now part of Bourneville Trust, which is an amazing charity which my family involved in. And Bourneville was this amazing out-of-town factory. It has a cricket and athletics tracker just next door to it, which is still being used today. And they were really for people to, it wasn't just about work, it's about work-life balance, where at the time employees really didn't care about employees. It was, you are working, we don't care about you, you work 6 days a week. So Cadbury's were one of the first to say actually weekends are off, bank holidays are off, very much for women's civil rights, and even tried to stop a war in South Africa, the De Boer War, by buying a newspaper, which was a bit like The Guardian at the time, so it was quite lefty. There was only one mainstream paper at the time, which was, I think, was the Daily Mail or the equivalent. And Cadbury's wanted to have a voice, so they bought this paper, which was losing lots of money, about to go bust sort of thing, and they bought that to give another voice to society. So Cadbury families did some amazing things, which I think people don't realise.
I knew the story of Cadbury is absolutely remarkable, and I did know with the Quaker background, this whole emphasis on good, but for you to bring it to life there in terms of really just what this company stood for, I guess it was from the first B Corp businesses, right?
Yeah, no, I would have definitely got certified. I'd imagine so. Yeah, I was just super inspired by learning about that at school. I went to school and grew up probably 5 miles away or so. So it was constantly learning. I was just super inspired.
Where is home for you?
So I grew up in Birmingham.
Okay. You don't have a Birmingham accent.
I've lived in London for a while, but
okay. Does it when you go back home? Does it come out?
Yeah, a little bit. After a couple of drinks, get me. Oh, but next event I'll speak to you. I'll definitely.
Are you Villa or Brum City?
Aston Villa.
So are you?
Big
okay.
Aston Villa fan.
They're doing well, aren't they?
Yeah, we've got some.
Anyway, I could start talking about that till the cows come home. But anyway, so let's go back to that. So it seems, James, that you're really clearly very proud of the fantastic background, obviously, that the Cadbury name, what it represents.
Yeah, no, I was super proud. Always wanted to get into chocolate or have my own business, and I was really passionate about it, and just love those school parties, and after that sort of making chocolate at home and stuff like that, and just really just loved it sort of thing. So I wanted to do it, but I didn't know how. And when I went to uni, that was 18 years ago or so. So it was sort of going after that. It was still when the internet was, you don't have the the information we do now, and to set up a business, it was bloody hard 18 years ago. So I was like, right, let's go down the normal path. So I got a job in finance. I was working in London as in financial trading. I did that for I think 5 years or so, and I got promoted to, I thought, my sort of dream job. And then I just didn't like it. My boss was a nice guy, sort of both, super passionate about what he did, but he was just a bit annoying to work with, if I'm honest. But generally lovely guy, and he meant the best. But he was French. When he got annoyed, he'd be like slamming his mouse and I'd get mad, and I was like, oh goodness, sort of thing. So one day I was like, he's going to come in, he's going to be annoyed with the way the market's gone. So I was like, right, this is not for me. I like finance, but I prefer the sort of micro aspect, whereas we were trading on derivatives and interest rates, FX, stuff like that,
right,
which is very macro based, and we'd be looking out for, reporting from a US in terms of monthly payrolls, which has a massive impact on interest rates, and that really governs the financial world sort of things.
So from what you're saying then, I guess your background, you must be pretty academic to have got into a role like that. Yeah?
Yeah, I was always average at school, but I sort of worked my way up in sort of going, working in finance. So I started off with an operation role, and I sort of worked my way up with the last company I worked for, which was big pension funds, and I was doing really well in role there. So I managed to get into trading, and as I said, I thought it was going to be the dream job, but it just felt like we were moving millions and billions of pounds around the world trying to make a tiny margin. That's what finance people do, right? It's some people love it. My boss was coming in and be like telling me about the Asia market, which would have already started, and I just didn't have that passion. So I was like, you know what? If I'm not passionate about it after a couple of years, it's not for me, and I want to do something.
Because the passion was deep rooted in.
Yeah, I think it was business, and I looked at a number of different ideas, but it was just always came back to chocolate. I was like, I just really like chocolate, and at the time I was seeing people like Bloom and Wild who do the flowers.
We've had Aaron in the studio.
Have you? Yeah. Amazing. So he was a big inspiration for setting up. Also, it was Graze at the time, so I was a subscription with Graze when it used to be like a letterbox recurring subscription. And I was like, why is no one doing that with chocolate? So when we started, it was chocolate fit through the letterbox, and that was the real idea. So it was trying to do something like Bloom and Wild, but for chocolate. Didn't want to raise money, I just wanted to do it myself, try and work out how to do it. So it's very much just me for the first couple of years, trying to work out what the hell I'm doing. I've never worked for a small business, never worked for a business really. It was finance, which is completely different really from a business.
And where did it begin in terms of having tasted this lovely chocolate? It really is beautiful. How did you start to refine the recipe and get the chocolate to a point where it's as nice as it was now?
To work out about chocolate, I just read, got lots of books, went on YouTube, tried to make it myself. So there's a lot of iteration there. I went to a number of trade shows to meet suppliers in terms of chocolate and understanding where they were sourcing it from. I think it's the ethics and sustainability in sourcing is so important to me. Sort of having that Cadbury connection. When Cadbury started, it was obviously very different, and that was so important when they were starting, and understanding the farmers get treated well and they get paid properly and stuff like that. So it's really learning and getting out there and going to trade shows. And the first trade show I went to was one in Germany. I've never been to a trade show in my life, and it was absolutely massive. It was probably 5 football fields, and I just got I was just completely overwhelmed. I just walked around for 10 minutes, then left. I was like, this is too much sort of thing.
Do you know where to begin?
Yeah. And I think I went again the following year and was a bit more prepared and sort of understood it, and sort of I was like, right, I'm going to meet these people, and sort of grew my confidence so I could go over to people and discuss stuff as well, because at the time I didn't really know what I wanted. I just was like, I was just this guy.
How old were you at the time?
So 29, I think, 30, that sort of age, and I had no idea what I was doing. So second time around, it was easier than sort of trying lots of chocolate, going out to meet different suppliers and stuff like that was really important, and then sort of iterating with the factory. I was like, right, I like this, but it needs a bit more salt or sugar or different inclusions and stuff like that. So it was a really.
Is there a lot of tasting? I mean, it sounds like a really hard job, James. Is there a lot of sampling that goes into this?
Yeah, no, absolutely. No, it's not just me as well. I like to get people around, have a glass of wine and a couple of beers, and get people to try the chocolate.
Why are you so damn slim?
I've run a lot. So I think exercise is so important when you're doing business. It's without it, you sort of do start going crazy. I think so. Try to go to the gym and run as much as possible. But
so that's the answer then. But so you were going to trade shows. You were starting to learn the art, the mastery of chocolate. You were sampling, testing with family, testing with friends. So without cutting out too much of the story, the reason why you're here. Huge congratulations in the Growth 100, absolutely smashing out the blocks, multi-million turnover business now. When did it really start to come together then? When did you start to feel that there was something here that people wanted to buy? When
we launched, got a bit of PR, and that sort of went well for 6 months. But then suddenly it was like a gifted product where you might buy it for yourself, but we didn't really have enough products for people to come back. So we realised quite quickly that the D2C model, unless you have a lot of money and you can have a big team and have lots of variation, wasn't going to work. So we were doing markets to get feedback and trying to sell at those sort of places. And then eventually we got our first stockist, which was Fortnum & Mason. So
great one to have, right?
Yeah, I was quite lucky. I had a friend who worked there, and he managed to put me in contact or drop some samples off and stuff like that. A bit of luck along the way, so important. And that having that first stockist is so important because it gives you so much credibility. So then you can go to have a trade show, which we did ourselves with our product on. And
so you have a stand at a trade show, is that what you mean?
yeah, so I think it probably took 2 years before. The first year was just me learning and not really having a clue. Pretty much for the second year as well. Then it was probably the third year when we had like a trade show. We went and God, it was awful looking back at the quality of the stand we did. I think my dad helped me build it. It was actually in Birmingham. It was at the NEC. And it was pretty shocking, but it worked, and we got people interested, and we had distributors who came over. So, working with distributors is the best way to sort of get your product out there. So we did that for a number of years, and we've sort of been steadily growing ever since. And Love Cocoa is our first brand, which was more it's very much premium gifting, as well as self-treating. And then we've recently launched our Hip chocolate, which about 2.5 years ago, which is our oat milk vegan chocolate, which is available in grocery. So they are both chocolate bars and products, but they are very different.
I'm looking forward to that.
Have you not? Oh,
I've
really
tried the Love Cocoa loads, but yeah, the Hip is. I'm quite looking forward to the experience. Right, let's just go to something that was very interesting, which I completely hadn't realised. Despite all the research we do, I just completely missed the fact you were on Dragon's Den.
Yeah,
James, that requires a huge amount of courage to go on that programme, knowing that it could go pretty wrong.
Yeah.
What was the experience like?
It was amazing. I really enjoyed it. And the way it actually happened, they got in contact. They have like researchers, and they got in contact, I think, 1 year. And I was like, nah, I'm not doing it. I was like, I'm not taking the risk. I've seen lots of people. I've been watching it I used to be addicted to it. I probably watched it for 17 years. And I was like, no, I'm not going to risk it, sort of thing. These dragons can be quite scary. Then it came the second year, they sent the email, and I was like, yeah, you're not growing quite as quick as we could. This could be quite a good opportunity. Denied about it. And they're like, you know what, why don't you come in for they do like a video sort of thing, you're speaking to a camera. And I went, well, I didn't do much preparation, I was like, I'll just try and wing it. And they're like, right, can we have you in a week? And I was like, no.
What?
I was like, no. I was like, you're crazy, no. I might be able to do it in a month, so I got a bit of time to prepare it. And yeah, I'm not a natural speaker or doing presentations. I used to hate them at school. I used to get my mom to ring in and say I was sick and stuff like that.
Really?
Even at university, I didn't like it.
So on a serious note then, that creates real anxiety, does it, doing presentations or anything like that?
Yeah, no, I don't like it. I'm better now, and I think Dragon's Den was such a good thing to do because it gives me a lot more confidence. Before, I probably wouldn't have done something like this. So sort of going on to Dragon's Den and getting that confidence is so big. And I did practiced, and it was a great experience. And I was really nervous as well watching it because I had a friend who went on a year before me. He has a pork snacking brand, and from speaking to him, they can edit it how you want. So he really switched on guy, a really nice guy. And they said, oh, what's your sales for next year? And he obviously knows his sales figures. And then they kept asking questions. And then they edited it so he didn't know it and just made him look a bit of a... So they have a bit of a license to do what they want. But no, it's a great experience. And we got there, I think it was 6 a.m. and didn't get on until 6 p.m. So it was a lot of waiting around. And
you say we? Did you go on your own?
Oh, it was me, yeah. Well, I say we. I don't know why I will say we. But yeah, it's literally just me in the business.
You're such a team player, James.
Yeah.
But wow, so that's a lot of... So I've got to bring out the context of that because again, just nothing but admiration for you. That something that obviously would have created a lot of anxiety, a lot of stress, but you just in life have to sometimes just do stuff knowing that it may be a horrendous feeling to step into that feeling, but it's worth it. And it seems to me that was the case with you. Yeah, no,
I think it was probably the biggest sort of percentage growth after that. It's like lots of people watched it, lots of people.
Well, before we get to that, so 6 o'clock, the cameras are rolling. Yeah. What happens?
So we got there 6 a.m. So you're in a hotel, you're speaking, then you get there you're setting up your table like 8 a.m. It's sort of starting to get a little bit nervous. And then there's another 6 people who's getting ready as well. You don't know when you go on. So they're like, well, we can't really tell you. And it's like, come on, at least surely you know. They're like, no, we don't know. And so I was waiting. I was watching the first person, the second person, the third person. I was like, I'm the only person left, so it's going to be me. So it was 6 p.m. and I had drank a lot of coffee. I was buzzing.
You're wired.
I was completely wired. But the great thing is I could practice my pitch. So I was talking in the mirror, and we had a researcher person who sort of helped me as well to go through the pitch. So I thought I nailed it, but then I knew what was going on. And then one last time I went to the researcher, I was like, oh, do you mind if we just go over it again, knowing I was going to go on? And I just couldn't remember anything. I was like, oh my God, what have I done? My mum told me not to do this.
So you had mind freeze?
Completely. And then she's like, oh, don't worry about it. Go and get a glass of water and come back in 10 minutes. Then after about 1 minute, they're like, oh, but actually we need you to go in the lift. I was like, oh my goodness, here we go. So I was in the lift and I was thinking, oh, do I turn around? Can I turn around?
The lift?
Yeah, the lift. And you can hear the dragons getting ready. They will get their makeup done. They will wear makeup and to make them look good and younger on TV, probably. But but the great thing about it, when the doors open, and they've been there for a long time as well, and they probably saw some good pictures and probably some not so good ones because they have a wide range of people sort of speaking before to some of the people who didn't know the gross margin, trying to help them with their pictures sort of thing. So they've seen a lot of different people that day, and doors came open, and luckily they all smiled and they were sort of really rooting for you. So I think
really?
I think that's huge respect for them as well, because I think they can come across as, on TV, it's drama, right? So, but they can come across as dragons and these sharks, and they don't care about it. But they all smiled. They could have just been like, what, I don't care sort of thing. But I think they were generally all really rooting for me to get the pitch out well and to do well. And it went well. You've got to look at one opportunity. I'd give myself a 7 out of 10 for the pitch, which I'd have taken any day of the week before. Because if you mess that up, it's not like Shark Tank in the US, where I presume they have more than one opportunity because they're pretty good out in the US. They're amazing at presenting. Whereas in the UK, you've literally got one opportunity. And you can't mess it up. Otherwise, they'll literally try and.
Now you were fortunate that you actually attracted investment.
Yep. So we got 2 offers. So we got an offer off Tej, which was great, as well as Peter. And we were sort of negotiating there. You're in there for about an hour and a quarter, and they obviously cut it into 15 minutes and do what they want with the filming. But yeah, we're in there for an hour and sort of discussing, negotiating. And we took a deal on TV, but then soon after we realised that a lot of things they could help with was a little bit sketchy. Tej, lovely man. When I met him a couple of times in his big HQ for Vitibiotics. But he's it's a £100 million business. He's CEO, and to get time with him was going to be very hard. It's going to be very scarce, and I think he gave up some of his weekend, he would say, to help me. But I just wasn't sure I was going to get the amount of help I needed at the time, and to reduce the valuation and give such a big chunk away for, I think it was £70,000, which doesn't get you very far, to be honest. So I
decided against it.
Yeah, so I was like, look, let's agree on not to do it, and we decided not to. And a lovely guy, and we left shaking hands, and he was rooting for me and the brand still, and it was a great experience. So I think it's going there, putting yourself in a position that you're not comfortable is just going to help you as a person get to the next stage. And I think you've always got to test yourself and do things you don't want to do, otherwise you're not going to be able to grow as a person, and that's going to have a direct impact on your business.
So James, obviously the experience then on Dragon's Den was great for you. So you said, I think just before we started going to the experience of Dragon's Den, it all of a sudden turned the button, flicked the switch onto the revenue model straight after that, did it? What happened?
So we've got a number of distributors and retailers sort of emailing and being interested, and it just gave us a bit of even speaking to with a small business, to get your product into stores is not an easy task. So again, before I started, I just presumed they would get in contact with you. They'd be like, oh, this is a cool product, and I generally thought they'd get in contact, you put it on a shelf and it would sell. So being naive is an understatement. But yeah, there's a lot of emailing, chasing these buyers. The buyers are basically the gatekeeper to the retail stores or the grocery stores. So they've got to take punt on you. They've got KPIs, and they're getting judged on their selling your product and the whole category as a whole. So they want to put their eggs in the basket, or they want to make sure that everything is working for them, sort of thing. And if they're going to get behind you and support you and put you on the retail store, it's got to work, sort of thing. Otherwise, they're not going to get their pay rises and promotions, whatever else. So, it's a lot of discussions with them, and you've got to show how you're different, how you're good, and stuff like that. So just having that Dragon's Den experience, and that having a newly created community of sort of fans and stuff like that who really like the brand and know a bit more about the brand makes such a big difference. So it just, again, it helps if you're going to meet a retailer, and sometimes you're sort of walking up the stairs or in a lift with people, and it's such an easy way to sort of break the ice, sort of thing. So things like that made such a big difference, and just gives you a bit of credibility as well, sort of thing. So it definitely made a big difference. It didn't transform the business in 2 years' time, and you weren't suddenly a massive business. I think in the States with Shark Tank that might be a different case, but in Dragon's Den in the UK, I've spoken to lots of people who've been on the show, and it is a great opportunity and a great platform to.
So it's exposure, isn't it? Nothing more.
Exactly. And a few people will probably have the deal with the dragons and get a lot of value out of them. There's new dragons who sound amazing. So I think it's a great platform, and it's great for small businesses.
So take us to where you are now then. How many stockists are putting this product on your product on the shelves?
So for Love Cocoa, we don't really get the data. We're in lots of distributors who will distribute the product to lots of stores. With HIP, we're more sort of aimed at grocery. So the difference between the two brands is, one, we've got a very premium brand, very luxurious, which is aimed at gifting or self-treating. We're eventually going to have our own stores. That was going to be this year, but we've just gone through a rebrand.
Your own stores?
Yeah, no. So for that sort of Love Cocoa brand, we need to have our own stores, and we raised some equity finance investment last year, which was part of the plan for that. But we've been doing a lot this year. We've had a rebrand. We're about to launch a rebrand with Love Cocoa in September, which is super exciting to do. So we just want to make sure we nailed that, and then we're going to do the stores probably end of this year, probably end of next year.
How many are you talking?
We want to have 6, 7 in London in the next 2 to 3 years, I think.
Brilliant.
But we want
to. Have you considered the locations yet? Do you have any idea?
Yeah, we've been visiting lots of different locations in London. It's just the rent is still crazy, so you've got to be turning over a hell of a lot of money just to break even. So it's we don't want to be losing £200,000-300,000 a year on a shop. That's just too much money for the size of our business, sort of thing.
So there's a critical point at which it then becomes worth doing that.
Yeah, and I think for brand exposure and get people into the brand, it's going to be so important. It's such a good way to market the product as well. And eventually we want to have concessions within retail stores like Selfridges and maybe John Lewis in the future. It'd be great to have those concessions, but to have those concessions stores within the stores, you really need to have your own to start with. So hopefully having a great store will really help with that and just get the brand out. And great way to attract people, especially if you have the right area and you have the right footfall. And just with digital marketing, it's so expensive at the moment. I'm sure you've had lots of guests who talk through that, and it's so expensive and hard, and people are getting more and more wary of, if you're on social media, I never click on the adverts now. I always don't even notice them, sort of thing. So I think,
maybe you're just
yeah, exactly. So I think if I'm doing that, then I'm sure people who use social media a lot more than me just completely ignore it, sort of thing. So it's like, how can you connect with new customers to grow? And I think having a retail store and having that omni-channel presence is.
So that's going to be this year.
Yeah, probably not this year, but it's probably next year. If I'd like to do it this year, but I think my team would be pretty annoyed with me if I suddenly dropped that on them with them. But it was meant to be for this year, but it's getting postponed, and I think it's just really important we now the relaunch with our Love Cocoa brand, and we've also got so many things going on with our HIP brand, which is the vegan grocery oat milk chocolate. We launched into Sainsbury's October last year, so it's just coming up to a year. They're happy with performance, but it could definitely be a lot better. So we're really putting a plan together to really make sure that can be as successful as possible before talking to other big retailers as well. But we've got lots in the pipeline with that brand, and just really putting all our efforts into making sure that's a big success, and making our rate sale even higher than it is.
Now, I was excited for you, delighted to see the recent announcement you put on. It was relatively recent. It was about becoming B Corp certified.
Yeah.
Exploded all over LinkedIn in terms of, it was just a great post in terms of you saying why it was so important to you. Why was it so important to you? Is it because do you think is there an element of going back to the amazing work that your past generations had done in terms of around that made you feel the responsibility to make sure that you're building a business that its purpose is completely in tune with helping?
Yeah. Yeah, I think just having that Cadbury heritage. I think there'd have been a B Corp back in the day when they started. Maybe not now, but definitely when they started, it was all about people, the planet, and that's what we've been doing for a while. So, going through that B Corp process is quite a lot of time. So we deliberately actually put off for a while. It's like, that's going to take up so much time for a small business.
Tough to get, isn't it? This is not an easy thing to get at all.
Super tough, and we literally took 12 months, and we had to change things like our legal documents, like our articles, to get that through, and lots of processes within the business itself, as well as making sure that our suppliers are adhering to some of the B Corp principles. So it's a lot of work, but being a chocolate brand, I think it's super important. Lots of people are more wary of where cocoa comes from. With there's lots of issues within the supply chain, with a lot of cocoa come from Africa, and there's child exploitation out there with cocoa farmers. And if you know much about cocoa farming, but it's generally there'll be people or be a family will have a couple of hectares of trees, and they'll make sure they farm all those, and they'll be selling those trees to a cooperative, who'll probably sell it to another cooperative, who'll then eventually sell it to a bigger company who'll transport those beans to Europe and add all the value in Europe. So in Africa, they're not really getting much out of it. Basically, there's, this is the cheapest part of the supply chain, and these farmers really aren't getting paid enough money to be able to send their kids to school, or even put food on the table half the time. So what happens generally is a lot of these farmers will end up getting their children to help out, and it gets to a stage where it's suddenly starting to be a bit more like exploiting their children, right. And they won't go to school because they've got help. And you get it. If I was in their situation, I'd be asking my kids to help because I want to put food on the table. But again, they're not getting education, so it's having that.
So this process then makes sure that is completely reviewed as part of that, to make sure that
exactly there's a lot more
suppliers are adhering to.
Yeah, exactly. We work with suppliers in predominantly South Africa. Sorry, not South Africa, South America, who again have less of this issue. So, but yeah, they really do look into your supply chain and where you're getting your products, your supply of cocoa from. And luckily, one of our suppliers is a B Corp, which makes it a big help. And they've gone through that process as well. So I think it's really important actually when we are looking for new suppliers is, do they have the B Corp, or are they thinking about it? But I do understand it is a lot of work if you do it yourself. There are consultants these days who sort of seem to be able to promise you the world and be able to get it done very quickly, and there are loopholes in the B Corp, and I think B Corp do actually need to have a look at their process and make sure that
really,
because there's big companies, I'm not going to name them, but who probably not adhering to all the B Corp principles, and people who've got bottle companies, water bottle companies who've got B Corp, and for me that feels like it needs to be reviewed. And I think they are reviewing some of the criteria and principles at the moment. But I think when it's set up, the principle is it is doing good, and I think they just need to have a little review of it again to make sure that they're accepting the right companies. And I think it will be resolved, and I think it's a great thing to do. So yeah, really proud to be finally a member of the B Corp, and I think it's great for employees as well. I think
I was going to say to that, your team, you said, is up to 16 now, so the team is growing. I guess a real sense of pride, and nicely aligned with people having a purpose every day, knowing they work for a business that has that real conscience. Yeah,
especially the sort of Gen Z, the younger guys. I think they've grown up and they've got a lot more information than when probably we were growing up. So it's they've got that information and they really want to be working for a purpose-driven company. So it does definitely help when we're retaining staff and going out and trying to get new staff. I think if we're a B Corp and another company who might be offering similar pay and terms and similar size sort of business, and I think that does make a big difference. It won't just get people in if you don't pay them the same and don't give them benefits and you're not a growing company, but if you're neck and neck, I think it definitely helps. And I think that's the same actually if you're approaching retailers. If we're talking to a Tesco or a Waitrose or a Sainsbury's or whoever it might be, to say, look, we're a B Corp, and then if we're against someone who hasn't got the B Corp, then I think it does definitely make a difference. And I think the one problem with B Corp actually is that retailers know it, and lots of people working in FMCG and food and stuff know what it means, but actually the wider public, if you went and sort of spoke to 10 people in the street, I'd be surprised if more than 2 people probably knew what it meant at that sort of thing. So I think there's definitely
it's a really good point. Piece. That's such a good point, actually. Yeah, if I was asking my mum or my dad, I don't think they'd.
I doubt my parents have got an absolute clue. But, and then we're also part of 1% for the Planet, which we've done as well. Sort of thing.
What's this, James?
So we're 1% for the Planet. So we give 1% of our revenues to the Planet now. Wow. So it's a charity. They've got a platform where you can go on and pick your partner. Previously, we've planted 1.8 million trees with the Eden reforestation, which we're super proud of. And now we've moved to the 1% for the Planet, where we can continue to plant trees. And with cocoa, it is actually takes a lot of carbon to grow it and then get it to the UK and to Europe. So giving back to the environment, and we want to be carbon negative eventually, and we've been doing quite a lot of work around that. There's a lot of calculations and certifications, so we haven't quite worked out how we can get there now. But I'm pretty sure with 1.8 million trees, we're definitely carbon negative.
You're on your way.
we're not certified. So, but no, I think it's really important. People want to see businesses give back, and I think everybody should, all big businesses should be doing the same. I think Patagonia, obviously they've been the big activity brand, a clothing brand in America. They've really led the way with 1% for the Planet and B Corp, and really aspiring to look at companies like that have those core principles and grow to the size they are. So it does show that you can grow with also giving back. So that's always been my philosophy is, let's give back, and also let's try and grow the business and be super successful.
So the B Corp is obviously something that you're rightly very proud about, which is amazing. Now the business has been going 7 years, hasn't it?
Yeah.
What are some of the things that you've really discovered as part of being, a founder, a business owner, a CEO?
Yeah.
That you've really learnt on the job, as they say, and are there things that you do differently if you were to start all of a sudden again today?
Yeah, great question. I did a LinkedIn post with 7 things for our 7th birthday actually recently. I'm just trying to remember all those things, but I think the one thing is, when you're setting up a business, lots of people are on Instagram or LinkedIn will sort of show you the positives, and there is a lot of positives. However, it's bloody hard, and again, if I knew how hard it was, may not have set it up.
Really? No, seriously. If you had have known how difficult it was, would there be an element of you that had gone, oh?
Yeah, touch and go sort of thing.
Yeah.
It's really hard. It's very lonely. I was a solo founder. My partner, who's now my wife, she worked for the business for a while, and without her, actually, we definitely wouldn't be here. She decided that she would set her own business up after a couple of years working with us, which is probably enough amount of time to work with her. But
is it a chocolate brand?
No, it's a bag brand called Kind Bag. It might be on the list hopefully in the next couple of years.
What's it called?
It's called Kind Bag.
Kind
They
Bag.
make bags out of reusable plastic bottles. So again, very sustainable, purpose-driven company.
Brilliant.
And
doing well.
do really well, team of 8, and so she's doing amazing. And without her, without doubt, we would have not been here today. When she's dragging me along we just do markets and stuff like that, and again, she's a bit more outgoing and bossy, and like, this is how we set it up, sort of thing. So without her, I don't think we would have been here. So I think it's really important, if you don't have a co-founder, you've got a partner who believes in you and the brand. But yeah, I think it is hard. It can be lonely if you don't have that co-founder or that support. I think it's definitely not 9 to 5, and there's the work-life balance doesn't really exist. It's more 24/7. It's you're constantly worrying about your team, and you want to have you want all your team to enjoy working where you're at, and when people leave, you obviously
take it very personally.
Yeah. I've learned to sort of not take it personally, and
How do you? It's something I've heard repeatedly. Is it?
I think
you've got to stop taking it personally, but it's difficult, isn't it?
I don't know if I've ever taken it personally. Actually, like everybody who's left our business is for a reason. I'd say I 100% understand why people will want to leave. If it's promotion, which we don't think they're quite ready for, or if it's more money when they move to a bigger company. So I 100% get when people leave. You obviously want your core team, and you want to keep people for as long as possible. But I think some people probably not quite right for a small business. They want that career progression. They want that path. When I was working in finance, it was you start with an analyst, and then you become an associate, then become a vice president, then a president, then an associate director, then a director, then you'd be some sort of global head, I think, sort of thing. So that was when I was working in investment banking. I think some people want that, and they're more structured, whereas in a small business, you need people who believe in your journey, and you've got to believe that opportunities will arise. And we've had lots of people who've been with us for 3 years, and those are the people who might have started off as an intern, and now they're one of the senior part of the members of the team. And I think it is a different skill set, and people are different. So I 100% get when people leave, and again,
it is what it is.
And you've got to get better people. So if people do leave, you've got to bring in better people into the team, and then re-energise the team. And that's what we've tried to do. And there's no point sulking around. And if we have had people leave as well, we make sure we have a questionnaire and really understand what they liked and what they didn't like, and really take that feedback. And it can be quite personal. And reading it, and you have people who do leave who are a bit disgruntled, and you just got to get on with it, take it with a pinch of salt sometimes, but pick out the bits where you can improve. And we've definitely learnt a lot over the last couple of years with people leaving, and really trying to improve our culture. We want to have a great place to work, but at the same time, people are here to work, and we need to grow, we need to be profitable. So it's a balancing act, and trying to get that work-life balance is really important. And we've got lots of initiatives. So last Friday of the month, people can work from home and do half a day. We have people in generally 3 days a week. So I think it's
so the flexibility is really great.
Yeah, then a couple of weeks a year, people can work from wherever they want. So if they want to tag on a holiday and then do some work in that place. So we try and do that. So there's a lot of benefits of working for a company, because again, we can't compete with Coca-Cola or Unilever to get staff. So it's how we can be different, and we want people who want to come in and learn and challenge themselves and grow the business.
Take me back to, I'm just fascinated by your relationship with your wife, which in the sense that, so she is an entrepreneur, she is running a business that's really going places, as are you. Now we know that entrepreneurs can be very up and down with their emotions because obviously it's deeply personal. It's a journey for a lunatic, really, isn't it? So what is it like, both of you being on that journey together? Yeah, I guess it's interesting.
She's Spanish as well, so if she watches this, she's Spanish people can be quite not emotional, but what's the word?
Fiery.
She's definitely fiery, but they like to tell you where you stand, and So it was a bit crazy for 2 years, and without her we wouldn't have been where we're at. I think if she came back into business now, it'd be fine, but I think it got to the stage where it was actually, you go and do your thing, I'll do my thing. But if I got her back, she'd be better. She would do a better job than me. She's really sort of very, very good at managing people. I think just Spanish people speak their mind a little bit more than English people. Not necessarily everybody, but
which is a great thing, isn't it? If it's
so good at sort of managing people and communicating.
People know exactly what they stand. That's what people want.
Yeah, it's amazing sort of thing. So I learn a hell of a lot of her, and we do talk a lot about business at home. So again, the home life is a lot about business. We had to probably delay getting married, like having a house and stuff like that, because we set up a business. So going back to that last question, it is, setting your own business, it's bloody hard. You can't get a mortgage as well. It's, once you're self-employed, even if you put yourself through the payroll, you don't realise it's so hard to get a mortgage, and you have to be quite creative and to get one and stuff
Banks
like that.
Don't like people
who
go out of steady employment.
So there's so much you have to put into you have to sacrifice being an entrepreneur, and I think people don't quite realise when they start. But on the flip side, like, you're working for yourself, and eventually you'll probably have, or hopefully you'll have, a better work-life balance, maybe in 5-10 years time, where the business is at a stage. You've got like a great leadership team, and you can go away, and I think it will come at some stage. But yeah, just working with your wife is amazing as well, and having that passion between you it can really help be your secret ingredient to really make sure you grow as quick as possible, and bouncing ideas, because we've got 2 different businesses now is great.
Now that's interesting, isn't it? Because there's 2 businesses in the Cadbury household now, right?
Exactly. Problem will be when we decide to have kids. I'm not sure how we're going to work that one out, but we'll have to.
We'll find a way.
You'll have to find a way. And as entrepreneurs, you just have to get on with it, and there's no good time to starting a business or any of these big life decisions. So it's you'll find a way and make it work, sort of thing. So,
and James, you are a young entrepreneur. Does that have its benefits? Does it have its sometimes disadvantages? Have you found sometimes in pitches with suppliers, maybe sometimes people may underestimate you? I don't know. What's your experience with that?
I wouldn't say I'm young, but it's when I was starting. I think it was my 30th birthday, and I was like, if I don't do it now, I'm not going to do it. So I was like, I pretty much quit. I think the week after, I was umming and ahhing. I think I had the letter ready to resign, and then I was like, right, this is the day, sort of thing. And try to keep me, but I was just like, no. I think 30 is a great time. I wasn't married. I think I was single at the time, so it was just perfect opportunity. I had no real commitments in life. I managed to save a bit of money from working, so it was like, if I don't do it now, I'm not going to do it. So it was, the time was right, and meeting people, I think maybe their name helped a little bit in terms of giving me that credibility. But have the Cadbury surname, even though I didn't get any help or anything. My family were philanthropists, so they really gave it away, and I couldn't call up the Cadbury family, or the operations or the CEO, the Mondelez, which is now owned by. I was literally trying to work it all out myself, which was, I think a lot of people probably don't realise or don't realise. But yeah.
So and that's a really important point to make here, isn't it? This is having to do it all yourself.
Yeah.
There hasn't been. And that may, with such a famous brand, you probably would think there's, the wealth has gone from generation to generation, but they gave it all away, didn't they? You were saying when we had that drinks party the other night.
Yeah, so the philanthropists, and they didn't believe, they wrote books and stuff like that, and they've got a quote saying they don't want to give their wealth to their family. They don't want, they didn't want, all their wealth to just be passed down, and I'm quite grateful in some respects for that. I think
in some respects.
No, I generally do. I imagine, I probably wouldn't be here for one. I probably wouldn't exist because of the way the world works. But I think it's great that you go out and you can do stuff yourself. And when we have children, I'll make sure that we obviously help them and give them, maybe loans to set up businesses up if they want to do that sort of thing, rather than just giving them a load of money or just letting them do nothing. That would be, I think that's the way to do it. And yeah, the family were amazing. They gave to lots of different charities, which my family's still involved in. My dad's does a lot of charity work, and
really?
There's like a charity where they give away, I think it's about £100 million, and all their interest or dividends and stuff they give away to different charities. So stuff like that. Then there's the Bourneville Village Trust, which again was all the houses Cadbury built, which is now a trust which helps people in the Midlands area to get housing and stuff like that. So they gave a lot of land away to the National Trust. They created green belts before green belts existed. So Quakers were really on it, sort of thing. So yeah, really inspiring.
Yeah, and again, going back to why B Corp, then it's in your genes, isn't it? It's in your blood to create something. James, based on the fact that such a famous family, such a famous chocolate brand, was there ever a point when you thought, I'm not going anywhere near chocolate?
No, I've always liked chocolate, so it's fun ingredient.
As you say, it's 9-10 seconds of just an amazing experience when you first start.
Exactly. Yeah, I grew up with chocolate, grew up by the factory, and it got a bit of advantage, I think, with the name. I think it definitely helps a little bit to a certain degree, especially when you're starting. Just gives you that credibility. We're actually on the product. We've got my name on the Love Cocoa products, but we're actually taking that off the front because I think it actually starts to create confusion.
Because that's becoming a brand completely in itself.
Exactly. So, and again, when we started, we weren't sure if we could have it legally and stuff like that, but we decided to go with it, sort of thing, and we never had any issues with Cadbury. So they've obviously
your surname.
Exactly. So I don't think there could have been anything, but they've never said anything, and it's been a great experience to use the name, and it is my name, and we've been growing as a business well, but I just think it's the right time to remove it. We've got like a beautiful new logo, and
you're excited by that, aren't you? We can see that in September, are we? Yeah,
and it's when we set up the Love Cocoa brand, it was on a budget, it was on a real we got designers who weren't expensive, and at a time I really didn't know where we were going to position the brand as well. It was, are we a grocery brand? Are we like a premium grocery brand? Are we a luxury brand? And just had no idea. So it took.
What are you then?
So we're now moving to a sort of more luxurious, and having stores. It's what we want to be doing. So the branding is just moving up another notch, sort of thing with that. But no, we've just had all the samples come into office actually today, and they look really strong. So I think it's just going to help us get to the next stage of our business. So it's super exciting to do that, and yeah, that's going to go launch in September. I'm sure there's going to be hiccups along the way, and that's life.
Part of the ride.
Yeah, it's part of the ride, and just got to try and minimise those as much as possible. And it does happen, and it's going to be bloody stressful, but we'll get through it. And this time next year.
On that note, what does the future look like? What a year, 3 years, 5 years, whatever you're visualising as you answer the question. Where do you think you can take this to, James?
I think we've got two amazing brands. With Love Cocoa, we want to have our stores, and we want to be competing with the likes of Hotel Chocolat. Obviously, they've done super well, but I do think there's an opportunity for an upstart younger brand to sort of start challenging.
Because they really have cornered that part of the market, haven't they?
Exactly, and they've done an amazing job. And I do think that people do want to try different things. So again, with chocolate, I think it's one of the categories where people have the least loyalty. So it's people do like to try new chocolates.
Which is good and bad.
Yeah, exactly. But so I think there's definitely an opportunity with having stores, and on my vision for that is going to really look different to a Hotel Chocolat, where you can come in, have a bit more experience, and you can try the chocolates, and we'll have like a truffle counter, and make it different. So like have something where you can't. The experience is different from buying online, where you might just buy a pack of chocolate. So we want to make it different, and really engage with customers, have lots of events and stuff like that. So that's really important.
I'm picturing it now. So you go into yours, and you'd be able to actually really sample the chocolate.
Yeah, and like learn about.
You'd be invited to really.
Yeah, and just learn more about the chocolate. So have a screen, a sort of education screen, to really get people to understand a bit more about how cocoa is growing, from terms of the start of the process to how it sort of goes into making a bar and stuff like that. So there's lots of cool things I definitely think we could do. Yeah. And then with HIP, which is growing really quickly.
So it's a really fast growing brand, is that?
Yeah. So it's growing quicker than Love Cocoa, which is one of the reasons we decided to go with the rebrand. Love Cocoa is growing well, but we thought let's give it another bit of a boost, and now we know what we're trying to go after. And then with HIP, super when we launched that brand, we knew exactly what we're doing. We had like 5 years experience of chocolate designing, stuff like that. So we literally launched a brand like people would think we'd been around for years, sort of thing. So we nailed the packaging, we nailed all the messaging, and suddenly just started going really, really quickly. So that we just need to get into more supermarkets. One of the things we're doing is bring down the price a little bit. So that's hopefully going to go through soon. So we're trying to find efficiencies within our supply chain to make it more of a an everyday product, because it's still on the premium end of the market, which is just because it's really good quality, and you've got when we're getting our supply and all that side of it, we're paying a lot of money for. So it's really important that the quality is great, but we are trying to bring down the price through growing and those economies of scale. But it is quite hard at the moment with inflation to sort of try and get better pricing. But we're doing our best sort of thing. Cocoa futures as well, which is the price of cocoa. I think it's a 16-year high because of all the weather issues with. It's called El Nido, which is to do with the sea heating up, and then it moves direction. So the Atlantic, it normally goes from east to west, but now it's every so often it will change over. Then the whole of the world's climate and weather changes. So that's going to probably bring a lot of droughts in Africa, and cocoa where that's grown is going to potentially struggle, as well as lots of the crops. So there's, global warming is really quite scary at the moment, and it's definitely having an impact on us. And we'll see the price of cocoa getting more expensive as well as probably food sort of thing. So it's a tricky time to be an entrepreneur, and
more constant curveballs, isn't it? That's always the story of an entrepreneur's life.
Yeah, I think these last couple of years have definitely been the hardest. It's been COVID, then it's been cost of living, which definitely affects us, and inflation, and it just doesn't seem to be stopping.
You've got ocean currents changing.
Exactly. Who know? Who'd have a clue that changing direction of a current with the warm water going into the cold water, or however it goes, makes such a big difference. But there's so many curveballs, and I think it's the resilience. I think that's probably the most. Again, going back to one of the questions was the resilience you've got to have as an entrepreneur, and it's going to be so hard, and things will be thrown at you, and I think it's the J curve. I don't know if you've read the book. It's amazing.
I've heard repeatedly about that.
And it's sort of you start and it's this is all right, and you sort of go up and it's this was pretty good, and then you suddenly like whoosh right to the bottom, and you're like, oh my god, this is really hard. This is, oh my god, I'm going to give up. And then suddenly something goes well, and you sort of go up again, and then again you'll sort of have these constant J curves where one step forward, 2 steps backward, and you suddenly a couple of steps ahead, and it'll start working and clicking. And we're still in that process, and we're trying to work out how to sort of go forward. But no, it's super exciting to be an entrepreneur and deal with all these challenges. And I think that's what I really like enjoying. It's the sort of problem solving, and when these problems do coming up, trying to work out how we can solve it as a team.
Yeah. Well, James, we're so excited, so proud to have you in the Growth 100. Not just because of the incredible growth, the brand, also because of just what you stand for. You can see that you're very driven to do good by what you're doing, and I think that is just, that's just such an exciting thing for any business to be driven by. So thank you so much for coming into the interview today. Love talking to you, and can't wait to see these shops. It sounds like it's going to be an experience going in there. So let's make sure we're there for the opening, if that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we're going to have a big party, so don't worry. We can definitely give back in terms of that, because you guys do some amazing parties. So we'll invite everybody.
Brilliant. We're wishing you all the best, and thank you so much for coming today. And thank you so much, James.
Thank you.